Welcome everyone to our chakra series. Today we are going to look at the fifth chakra, which is the throat chakra and communications. Before we do that though, first of all, our housekeeping slides. Here at EAN, you can study astrology with us 3 different ways. You can listen to our free weekly audio podcasts. You can subscribe to different sections in our Astro Library, and you can enroll in our multimedia course. Here's a slide on our Astro Library. This is where all of our materials eventually end up. You can see we have 3 different sections that you can subscribe to one at a time or all of them all at once. You can subscribe 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, or you can do a monthly recurring that can be canceled at any time. Here's our multimedia course. You can see that we have 3 different segments here. And segments 1 and 2 are offered physically with the materials and DVDs, or they are offered digital only. Everything is off of your internet-friendly device. Or you can get segments 1 and 2 both ways. You can get digital and all of the physical materials. Stay tuned. We will eventually have segment 3 available the same way as well. And if I remember correctly, Media Monk, Leroy, you're running a special $50 off on any version of these segments with the coupon code Pisces at checkout, correct?
That's exactly right. You just go in and to our Evolutionary Astrology course page, which is called Multimedia Courses right now on the homepage of the website, and that'll view all the different formats we have for all 3 segments, and just add it to your cart, and you apply. Actually, on the nomenclatures, apply that coupon code at checkout. I think in one of those it'll be a little rectangular box. Just enter Pisces, P-I-S-C-E-S. We've extended that for a week because we had a lot of international students in various time zones that were trying to beat the deadline, so we just thought we'd add on an extra week. So anyone interested in continuing their journey to the core of their soul through EA, please join us. We're accepting enrollments in segment 1 and segment 2 and segment 3.
All right, thank you for that little detail. And so here we are with the 5th chakra, or what is known as the throat chakra and communications. We're going to start out with some of our basic slides that we've had throughout this series. I'll go a little faster for those of you who have been coming along with us through this series. Here is a list of some of the most well-known books on the chakras. You can see they start out from the beginning of the last century. One of my favorites here is Anadia Judith, The Wheels of Life. This is where I take a lot of the materials from this, combined with the Jeffrey Wolf Green teachings over the last 30 years. Of course, the 7 major chakras are really relating to the number 7. As we can see on this screen, 7 is known to be important or significant in many different types of philosophies. You can see some of the stories up here from the different belief systems on your screen. And the number 7 in numerology is always spiritual questing, the occult, wisdom, psychic abilities. We have 7 days in a week, 7 stars in the Big Dipper, 7 notes to the major scale in music, 7 colors of the rainbow. And what we're doing in this series is looking again at the 7 major chakras. The chakras originate from Eastern philosophies. They're known to be the consciousness or the nerve centers behind manifestation. They are the mind-body polarity. The chakras are known to vitalize the physical body. Again, there are many chakras in the subtle body. Most everyone agrees on these 7 major chakras. When we go into the minor chakras, there's a lot more variety. We're not going to be looking at those in this series. From your Eastern philosophy perspectives, they are more concerned with the higher chakras, 5th, 6th, 7th chakra, which represent consciousness, over the lower chakras, which represent the manifested or material world. It's the polar opposite in our Western philosophies. They're more concerned with the lower chakras and manifestation over the higher chakras. Here is just a little slide for you. It doesn't matter which way you number it. Chakra is a Sanskrit term for wheel, circle, or disk of life force in the subtle energy body. As you can see tonight, we're going to be dealing with the 5th chakra, as we call it, communication, throat chakra. It is this one right here as we're working our way through the series from 1 through 7. The chakras will relate to various nervous systems, as I said. They will also relate to the endocrine system. And as we come in and focus on chakra number 5, we're going to be, oh gosh, pharyngeal plexus. Yeah, those of you who know me, let's laugh at Kimmery's pronunciations of words. The larynx area. See that word in there? Also the thyroid and the parathyroid is what becomes involved with the endocrine system here. Now, just some basics on Kundalini energy. Kundala is the Sanskrit word for coiled. Kundalini was known as the Hindu goddess, and the sleeping serpent coiled 3.5 times around the root chakra. Kundalini travels up the Sushumna, awakening each chakra and transforming its energy. I'll show you a visual of the Sushumna in just a minute here. It's the vertical column of energy current from the base of the spine to the crown. And running around it in a figure 8 is the Ida and Pingala. Now, Oriental medicine does have 14 major acupuncture meridians that include some of these same terms here, Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala. Forgive my pronunciation of words. Thank you very much. My 5th chakra. Here's a visual for you. This is the Kundalini. Here's the Sushumna that we were looking at. Here's those figure 8s traveling around both directions here, which are the Ida and Pingala. And Caduceus. This is the medical symbol that we might all be familiar with in our modern world. Look at how it has the same, yes. Gosh, it scared me.
Caduceus.
Caduceus. Thank you. You might as well show up the next 2 classes and help me pronunciate things, okay?
I will. I've heard it back yet. Isn't it interesting how that left brain, right brain thing that you do so well sometimes sneaks up on you?
Like I said, they quit teaching phonics the year before I went into, I think, the 3rd grade of school in my local school district, so I never got any phonics classes. I read well, I can spell pretty well, I understand words well, but isn't it interesting tonight, this 5th chakra, which is ruled by Mercury, as we're going to find out. I think I speak pretty good most of the time, but there's something there.
Well, there are also Sanskrit words and Latin words and all of those things, you know, so the root is, there's always a different emphasis on the particular syllable that you just tend to mix. It's no big deal.
Oh, thank you for that little detail. I didn't know that one. And again, as we're going to learn here studying the chakra this evening, sometimes it's the ability to understand the meaning over the word. But as you can see here, our modern medical caduceus symbol is also so similar to these energy centers traveling up and down the spinal cord. And so when we look at these 7 chakras, they actually can run the energy both directions. And wholeness is being able to balance all of these chakras, all 7, and to run the energy either direction however we need to. In other words, one is not better than the other. The liberation is when, with liberation path as it's known, it's when we start at the root and run to the crown chakra, again going from manifestation to consciousness. The manifestation path is the opposite. It's starting at the crown chakra and running the energy down, condensing it into manifestation. Again, neither direction is better than the other, and wholeness and balance is being able to run the energy either direction as we need to. Now, from evolutionary astrology's perspective, there is actually a Kundalini gland. It is at the base of the spine or coccyx, right behind the root chakra. In your Gray's Anatomy books, I tried to find a picture of this because I remember this from Jeffrey's teachings 3 decades ago, that there was this little knob that'd be right at the base of the spine in your Gray's Anatomies, but it was never named, and he would always say, that's the Kundalini gland, and it would actually secrete Kundalini, a hormone substance. And the intention of this Kundalini hormone is to penetrate, Pluto word, to the nucleus of any cell in order to purge toxins, heal, and alchemically change the consciousness of the cell, of each and every cell. Typical symptoms when we start, whoops, my chair, when we start initiating Kundalini are either intense heat or cold. Sometimes we'll have shaking spasms. Sometimes we can have a transitory paralysis. Now, the purging can actually be literally physical contaminants, or it can be the cellular memories of other lifetimes. It can create any manner of physical symptoms that are not always easily diagnosed by traditional medicine. And here is when we have those rulerships of chakra relative to health and wellness and those nerve systems that can really help us with an understanding of where the Kundalini energy is active and what is being purged and healed. We can also experience various states of psycho-emotional and psycho-anatomical situations when we are working with Kundalini energy. What is important here is that these situations or states are allowed and reflected upon. Many of these experiences could easily orientate or originate from other lifetimes and yet are being re-experienced in this life. When there is a repetition of these inner and outer circumstances, it means that there are issues that have not been totally resolved. Kundalini also has a popular myth that is related to sexuality. This is false. It is a part of it, and it gets this projection onto it because the sacral chakra is so close to the root chakra. If you look at Da Vinci's drawing here in which 7 chakras have been superimposed, the root chakra right at the base of the spine and the sacral chakra is only a couple of inches up. So as the Kundalini starts to rise, it naturally runs into the sacral chakra second. And in reality, sometimes there's an increase, sometimes there's a decrease in sexual energy. Now, as we look at the health and wellness issues from the EA perspective, the chakras are secondary or backup rulers to the planets. The planets and their correlating sign and house will have the primary rulership and understanding areas of strength and weakness in the body. Those are the foundations. And you combine or add on the chakras, and then that will give you additional information that can help you sometimes with areas that may be, again, hard to figure out, hard to recognize in regards to imbalances to health and wellness. In astrology with aspects, one of the general rules is that stressful aspects will tend to show weakness, whereas non-stressful aspects will tend to show strength. Inconjuncts are known to include some type of health crises, whether it is the waxing 150-degree inconjunct or the waning 210-degree inconjunct. However, again, all rules have exceptions. You need to be able to observe and correlate to see if this is actually happening for any individual chart in question. Here is a picture from Jeffrey Wolf Green's old book, Uranus. You can see here are the rulerships he has attached to the 7 chakras through his observations, correlations. You can see that all 12 signs of the zodiac then have a correlation here with these chakras. He gives a rulership of the parasympathetic nervous system to the north node, the sympathetic nervous system to the south node. Again, these are these 2 energy nerve centers that coil and figure eights up and down the spine. As we work tonight with the 5th chakra, you can see that it has rulership by Mercury, throat chakra, and you can see that Mercury has rulership of 2 different signs here as we work through this. And so again, here the throat or communication chakra has 1 ruler. It's Mercury. The sound is the wind or the roar of the ocean. Jeffrey Wolf Green would say the conch shell. This picture of the lotus here from Anadia Judith has the 16-petal lotus. And if you look at these, you'll see that each one of these petals will have a symbol attached to it, and these are the vowels of the Sanskrit language. And vowels in Sanskrit are known to be spirit, movement, energy. And that's a lot of what we're going to recognize for this throat chakra as well as we look at it. The consonants in the Sanskrit language are known to be matter, manifestation. Vowels, spirit, energy. I won't even. Visyuddha is what the term for the Sanskrit term for the throat chakra. It is the color of bright blue. It is the 5th longest wavelength, the 5th slowest vibration on the visible spectrum. The best translation for Visyuddha is purification. This is the purification chakra. One of the key phrases, the ability to vibrate with rhythm, allowing for communication. We're going to study all 3 of these words with this chakra. The ability to vibrate with a rhythm that allows for some form of communication. It can be verbal or nonverbal. Here are some of the key expressions from Anadia Judith. Vibration, communication, words, creativity, ether, telepathy, rhythm, mantras, media. Some of the distortions that start to come from this chakra is an inability to communicate or get along with others, feeling out of sync between yourself and the world, and then a shutdown of consciousness and especially the ability to expand into the higher chakras. If you have somebody who has speech difficulties, speech impediments, etc., etc., they get stuck at this chakra. They can work the lower chakras, but many times then they're not able to go into the last 2 upper chakras because you need that ability to expand consciousness to raise up into the 6th and 7th chakra. The 5th chakra is a yang chakra. You can take the lower 6 chakras as you count: root, yang, sacral, yin, solar plexus, yang, heart yin, and now we're back to throat chakra yang, and the medulla ajna chakra will be yin as well. I don't think the crown chakra has any yin or yang vibration to it. It's the blend of both, but it's known as the chakra of creative self-expression. This chakra is one of those central chakras, like the fourth. It's not smack dab in the middle like we studied with the last class in the heart chakra with 3 below, 3 above, but it is still very close to the fourth chakra and known as one of the central chakras between consciousness and manifestation. This is going to be some of the lower levels of consciousness. It is a meeting point between the abstract and the manifestation of ideas. The abstract being the upper chakras, the manifestation of ideas going down into the lower four chakras. And so my blue ones here are, I must have made a different note or something, and these two got out of sync. I'll correct it. So patterns of thought, when they condense into the physical world, do this through names and naming. This is known as that manifestation path. However, the fifth chakra is also that gateway to consciousness, especially the upper levels of consciousness. And so communication is the first level to transcend all of the physical manifestations of the lower four chakras. And this word is the liberation path. And I'll move this around after we're done. And so again, you can just see that even at any of the chakras, you're going to have an interface between the downward manifestation path and the upward liberation path. And so here it's thought into the physical world or communications into consciousness transcending the physical. You can see both directions are here. And so when we start to look at communication through the throat chakra, this is the means whereby consciousness can extend itself from one place to another. Now, this communication takes place in several different ways. It can be the DNA encoded messages of living cells talking to each other. It can be the nerve impulses connecting our mind or brain to the body. It can be the electrical communications of brain waves and muscle tissues, chemical communications of hormones to the cellular tissues. This is not an inclusive list. This is just a couple examples for you so that you can recognize that it's just not me as teacher talking to you as listener on the other end. Although I'll speak to that again as we move through all of this. It is the spoken or written word, yes, listening, speaking, writing, chanting, singing, but it goes beyond that into telepathy as well. It includes language. And so what we're recognizing here is as communications, there's so many different ways in which it can happen, verbal and nonverbal, between people and within our own cellular consciousness structure. Now, communication is the transmitting and receiving of information. When we are looking at it verbally, we are doing communications with the conscious mind. Look at your own mind doing its self-talk right now in the midst of this class. Look at how we are communicating via me speaking. Nonverbal communications work through the subconscious mind. And this is where we're going to get into sounds versus words. where we're going to get into vibrations and rhythms in a little bit here. So you can again see that this communication is a lot more than just being able to have language skills. Language does stimulate and channel consciousness. Language also, though, will bind the conscious mind into dualism. In other words will make us think of things that have manifested in the world of dualism. It is the body versus the mind. It is the internet device that you are using in order to participate in this class. And again, language will drop us down into the manifestation path. Language will also move us up and out into the liberation path. So almost any key word you look at here for the throat chakra will run either path, manifestation or liberation. When we speak about telepathic communications, these are communications that occur across time and space without the 5 normal senses. How many times do you think of someone and your phone rings and they're on the other end? One of the most common examples of telepathy. We all have the ability to experience telepathic communications. We have just lost a lot of that ability due to the lack of practice. And so how many of you go to meditation classes or some type of spiritual classes that really work on practicing your telepathic communications? When you do this, you can activate the 6th and 7th chakras, but you are activating the 5th chakra as well. If you look at where the 5th chakra resides, and you'll see another photo of this, I mean, it's right at the base of the head. It's right at the base of the head, which contains that brain, which, again, is expanding consciousness. Communication networks, this is part of the whole media word that we saw, are almost what we would call our cultural nervous system. And we have communication networks where we do it telepathically. But what do we have in our modern world? We have our smartphones. We have our computers. We have our TVs. We have all of the devices that we can get so distracted by that can really create a lot of chaos for this chakra. And if you find yourself with a lot of confusion and brain switching, really working with the element of sound or meditation to balance, clear, activate this chakra can calm out a lot of this chatter that we get in the midst of. Now, the Hindu believe that all matter is made of sound, and sound is a vibration. And so as we start then to look at this word of sound beyond it being specifically words, what do we know from this element of sound that will emanate from this chakra? High voice, low voice, musical instruments, however we know sound, there is a vibration to this sound. And in order to really be able to activate this chakra and activate vibrations from this chakra, we must be working to heal the body. We've got to go in and heal these 4 lower chakras and work with purifying them. In other words, the Kundalini energy is best rising through these 4 chakras in the background to really have an ability to open this chakra. Interestingly enough, one of the things that we do to purify the body is through sound, is through mantras. We'll get to this one a little bit more on this one too. Um, Sound has a purifying nature. How many of you like music? How many of you have your favorite type of music, and it will seem to have a soothing effect upon you? You know, there are those purists out there who really don't like the artist David Premel. I love her. I really like her CDs, listening to chanting, listening to Gregorian chants. Jennifer Brezian, whose CD Returning is one of my absolute favorites. Brezian, B-R-E-Z-A, I don't remember for sure. Google the CD Returning, Jennifer Brezian, and her last word will show up for you. She recorded songs in an ancient stone chamber shaped as the shape of a female womb off the island of Malta. Just one of my absolute favorites. And so we also then know that sound can have an effect on the cellular structure of matter. Going back to Hindu, sound creates matter. Anadia Judith gave an example of this gentleman, Ernest Chladni. Back in the 1780s, he put sand on a steel plate, and then he took a violin bow, and he would run it up and down that steel plate. And at a certain point, the sand would vibrate into a circular mandala pattern, and it would have all these vibrating lines out from the center like a chakra does. Many of you might know Dr. Emoto, who back in the 1990s started photographing frozen water crystals, and he'd do a before and after. He'd take, dirty water out of different various places, and he would then pray or energize thoughts into that water, and then photograph it again, and the water crystals would literally change shapes via prayer, thought. It's just another way of recognizing that the vibratory energy of the universe, whether we can hear it physically as sound or it's beyond our ability to hear it, can change matter. And here's one of his quotes: "Water is a mirror reflecting out of mind." So we can use that mind. We can use that throat chakra. We can use the vibratory energy of our thoughts and change the crystalline structure of water. Now, I thought I'd include this for you at this point. And in evolutionary astrology, we really don't assign elements to the 7 chakras, but Anadia Judith does in her work, and she worked with the 5 elements from the Oriental medicine. And so the first 4 elements in Oriental perspective are considered to be physical: earth, water, fire, air. The 5th element, ether, is considered to be non-physical. So here they are going from the first chakra, root chakra, up to the crown 7th chakra. and I colored them for you so that you could see these a little bit easier. Here's her perspective on the 7 chakras. She likes to use the word sound instead of ether, but this is how ether, which think etheric, akashic, astral. This is where this chakra relates to. Here are the seed sounds to these chakras. There isn't any that she has found defined to the 7th. And here are our classic vowels in the English language and the sounds to make. If you wanted to work with sound on your own, to do your own chanting, to activate any of these 7 chakras. So you have this for your own little PowerPoint slide here if you would like to work with this specifically. We also in this chakra have the principle of connectivity through ether, sound, vibration. Now, many of us are familiar with the fact that sound waves are slower than light waves. We hear sound, we don't see it. We see light, we don't hear it. And of course, the light waves, as we've talked before with these chakras at the beginning, will create the 7 colors of the rainbow, going from red to purple. And so what it is it's just the energy of waves or vibrations starting to vibrate higher and faster. And anything that we look at as a solid object is really vibrating at a high speed. The closer and closer we look with our microscopes, the more we recognize there's less matter and more energy. And so our most basic principle of matter is an atom. And it's composed of electrons, protons, neutrons. Here is the visual for it. Here's the nucleus, and in the middle are 1 or more neutrons. They have no electrical charge. In the nucleus, we have various numbers of protons. They have a positive charge. And spinning around very fast are any number of electrons with their negative charge. And this positive negative charge between protons and electrons holds the atom together. And again, this is the basic source of all matter, of all substances. So when you look at that throat chakra being a vibration, you can see how even the most solid objects are just vibrations that are being held together. You know, the good old Einstein or quantum physics quote, E equals mc squared. You cannot destroy energy, you just change its form. This is the same principle that's going on here. And we can start to use that 5th chakra. We can use the energy and the vibration of the 5th chakra to change forms in our world, to change our emotions, to change our thoughts, to change manifestations in the body. So all of these different vibrations along the whole scale, you know, what do you call that in the world of Newtonian physics? Hertz. Hertz are just how fast the waves are vibrating, how big the waves are, how fast they're vibrating, if you could look at them. So these vibrations are all characterized by rhythm, which is a repeated regular pattern in space and time. Think about how when we don't have a rhythm in our bodies, in our world, lack of rhythm becomes a disconnect with others, a disconnect with the universe. So there is this thing known in the world of vibrations called rhythm entrainment, which means that similar oscillating vibrations will eventually entrain, which is match up or merge. It's like how when you go into a clock shop, you can set all the clock, you can start all the clocks ticking at different times and it sounds like chaos, and eventually they're all ticking together. It's like when females live together in the same home. Eventually their menses mesh up. It's the 100th monkey experiment that was done in Japan, where they fed the monkeys food that had been covered in sand. And eventually one monkey learns how to wash it before eating it. The other monkeys start to watch, then they do it. Eventually there were so many monkeys doing it that monkeys on other continents started to, at the same time, they reached that state of physics calls it the condensation point, or they reach that point where consciousness vibratory took over and everybody recognized it. That's why you hear that term, the 100th monkey, many times. When the 100th monkey, when enough of us wish for and energize and meditate on world peace, we will have it. There are all the TM transcendental meditations that have been done around the world that have been proven to decrease crime wherever that is concentrated on for a certain part of time. And so what we're starting to recognize here then is, again, a term that's called rhythm entrainment. And if you think about this in terms of humans, especially those of you who have any evolutionary astrology background, how many of you want to go to a Donald Trump political event? How many of you would rather go to a concert with a harp player? We tend to also want to vibrate with those who are at a similar state of consciousness with ourselves. Now, the opposite of that is a term that they call interference patterns. That's where there are different oscillating vibrations. I gave you an example. Think of political differences between liberals and conservatives. Think of species differences. Think of the consciousness of an ant versus a dog versus a human versus an enlightened being. Another example that Anadia just touched upon that really kind of sparked for me is the whole autism spectrum. And where this was coming from is what they have, there were tests done on communications, and I don't remember who, but someone who actually videotaped a speaker and a listener and then slowed down that videotape to really observe what was being said. And the speaker and the listener both started vibrating energetically together. They started matching up eye contact, eyebrow raising, body postures. You've heard this before in when two people, or more start engaging with each other. There's just and it's not a 1-2, it's a simultaneous energy happening. And what we have with the autism spectrum, I mean, to me, this just begs to study it more. With the autism spectrum, many times we have speech impediments and speech difficulties. They have, trouble getting along within crowds of people. There's different oscillating vibrations between the autistic person and everybody else. They get so triggered being in a crowded room, and yet when they can be left in their own way, there are some along that spectrum that are almost, genius in what they can create, when they have their own oscillating vibration. So you can see that we can have it together and we can have it different. So therefore, recognize that we as humans can activate these chakras by changing our patterns or vibrations in our life. We do it through actions, thoughts, emotions. We do it through our diet, through our environment. We do it through habits. We do it through friends, community, our interactions with the world, through all of these electronic devices. We have an inherent ability to consciously change our vibrations, which changes our life. And that is the work of the fifth chakra. So how well do you use this fifth chakra in working to change these types of vibrations to change your life? More on this when we get to Mercury. It's really expanding your understanding of Mercury and its rulership. Chances are, as you're listening to this, as we're all starting to vibrate to the energy of this class. Now, one of the ways in which we can work to change vibrations is through sacred sound, which is known as mantras. It can be a single word, group of words. It can be an abstract musical tone. The So there's all kinds of different mantras or sacred sounds that we could use. We can use ones that are unique to us. You can go back to the slide that I show you and use those as well. And what happens with mantras or sacred sounds is it allows us to bypass language. It allows us to bypass the need to intellectualize anything. It allows us a direct simulation just through the vibratory energy of that sound or mantra. Now, this not only then changes our consciousness, it not only changes our world, changes our life, it is also known, the throat chakra, and you can see where this is starting to come from, is that it activates the creativity process. Remember we said way back at the beginning, it's known as creative self-expression with the fifth chakra? Isn't that interesting how 5 relates to Sun and Leo? I didn't see any correlations with that. We'll see Sun and Moon's co-rulership, a 6th chakra, with the next class. But the creativity process, it can happen in so many different ways. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, creating stuff, dramatizing as in plays or movies, literal as in the spoken or written word. Creativity can be verbal or nonverbal. The whole thing, though, about the process of creation is that it is a process of inner discovery. All right, hopefully that's giving you some better understandings of the throat chakra and communications. I'm going to shift this now over to a little more on the health and wellness perspective with the throat chakra. It specifically correlates to the nerves that emanate from the neck and shoulders area. And as we learned last class, the arms and hands are co-ruled by both the 4th and 5th chakras. So I included a couple of slides from the 4th chakra rulerships as well, because they get brought up within this too. Some of the distortions, and again, not a comprehensive list: sore throats, stiff necks, tendency of colds and flus, thyroid issues. Remember, this is the hormone in the endocrine system related to the fifth chakra. This includes the parathyroid, hearing issues, an inability to speak or communicate clearly, the whole issue of miscommunications. Now, here are, again, some slides that we had from the fourth chakra class, which correlated to breath coming from Anadia as the air chakra. But you can't make a sound without air. You can't speak without air or breath. You can't make a mantra or chant with that. So to me, as I've been, expanding my own studies of the chakras all over again, I just really do see a co-rulership here of the whole element of breath that comes through. And so what we've learned is breath is utilized for burning toxins, releasing stored emotions, changing body structure, changing consciousness. This one gets specific to the fifth. Speaking, fifth chakra, metabolizing food. We take in 18 to 20,000 breaths a day, and we take in approximately 5,000 gallons of air per day. Now, air or oxygen is the most quickly distributed element throughout our body. We can only exist for a few minutes without air, while we can exist hours without heat, days without water, weeks without food. The breath is under both voluntary and involuntary control. Voluntary is the sympathetic nervous system. Involuntary is the parasympathetic nervous system. Our brain uses 1/4 of that oxygen that we consume in the resting body. When we have an overactive body, energy goes into the tissues and organs over the brain. So the brain uses 1/4 of the oxygen, but it is only 1/50th of the body's mass. Look at how important breath is to consciousness. If you're not breathing, you're not alive, and there's no consciousness in the body. Pranayama is the word for the Hindu yoga systems of breathing techniques designed to alter consciousness, purify the body. There's many different types of yoga systems, as we know. Some of them are specific to the body, some of them are specific to breath work and mind. As we said before, breath is that gateway between the body and mind. This is the fourth chakra. This is the fifth chakra. As humans, our lungs will hold 2 pints of air, but most of us only breathe in half of that. And when we have breath deprivation, we have a slower metabolism, we have lower energy levels, we have toxin buildups. You can see how important breath work is, or exercise like walking, jogging, running, dancing, swimming, etc., to increasing energy, increasing our metabolism, releasing toxins. Now, when we start to look at the throat chakra from the perspective of EA and its rulership of Mercury, this chakra and Mercury will also relate to the left brain and the conscious mind. It is the nature of our nervous system in general. There is a rulership of all the motor nerves, which is the action nerves. Let's say move your arms, get up out of the chair. It also has rulership of the sheathing or covering of the nerve cells. Mercury is a co-ruler with the nodal axis system of the sympathetic, this is the voluntary nervous system, and parasympathetic. This is the involuntary nervous system. And you see this is south node, north node. It is a co-ruler with Uranus to the synapsal structure within the brain. In other words, Mercury, along with Uranus, rules the electrical functioning in the body. When the tips of two nerves connect, there is a space between them, and it is an electrical current that gets shot across that space between them that activates from one nerve to the other. That's that synapsal structure. And again, Mercury has co-rulership of this along with Uranus. EA also works with the fact that Mercury and the throat chakra rules the arms, hands. Mercury has specific rulership of all the minor chakras in the hands. And so if we have some imbalances in this direction, we can have extreme sensitivity or an insensitivity to touch in general because Mercury has rulership of the hands. And then that secondary rulership of the throat chakra. So how this starts to work, if you haven't figured it out yet, is because the throat chakra is ruled by Mercury, everything that we're discussing here can not only create impediments with speech and language and sound and speaking versus non-speaking, we also can start to see various parts of the body that might have imbalances when the throat chakra or Mercury is stressed or in stressful aspects to other planets. The various combinations are created this way. Mercury has rulership and the throat chakra specifically with the nerves emanating from the throat, from the larynx, from the thyroid and the parathyroid, the tonsils, the arms, and the hands. Now, tonsils are part of the immune system, which is ruled by Neptune. More on that later at future classes. However, because the tonsils reside right there in the throat chakra area, they then come into rulership, co-rulership, with the throat chakra and with Mercury. Now, of course, as we've spoken before, we can have speech difficulties with this chakra. We can have brain switching, left brain, right brain, intuitive, deductive, blah, blah, blah. So it can create an inability to relax. It can sometimes cause us to live in our head instead of our body. It can create stress of all kinds. A stressed out Mercury can create stress-induced breakdowns in any area of the body. So if you look at Mercury in hard aspects to other planets, this is going to show you where you can see stress and where you might see a breakdown in other areas of the body ruled by another planet. The electrical system in the body can go haywire. It can be overstimulated or understimulated. There can be all kinds of strange sensations and symptoms that can go on. There can be psycho, mental, and or physiological conditions. Now, what is just flashing for me right now is the fact that Leroy has Pluto, which is representative of the soul, in the third house. He also has Sun in the third house, the Gemini house, ruled by Mercury. He has Mercury in Virgo. I think your Mercury's in the fourth house, but you have Mercury in Virgo, square the nodes. And when Leroy, when I think, what was it? Our third year? That's interesting. 3. Our third year of relationship together, you were under an extremely stressful situation in a work environment, baseball coach, in extremely stressful heat conditions, and you came down with Bell's palsy, which means that one half of your face, and if I remember correctly, it was your right side, wasn't it?
It was.
One half of his face just literally froze up. The nerves just froze up, if you're not familiar with Bell's palsy. They think it is viral based, but they don't know for sure. And his right eye literally stopped opening and closing. We had to
For a
put,
month.
for a month, we had to put salve in it to for tear for to moisten the eyes. I would have to tape his eyes shut every night because it didn't close. And
Mm.
we did various alternative things over the years, including our energetic balancing. And you pretty much, what would you say? You had a 90% recovery? Would
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I got Mercury. That Mercury is also, we got Jupiter right there. So it was, and that's square the nodes. The nodes, of course, in Gemini Sag. So the rulers of the nodes square the nodes in my natal chart. So yeah, a lot of this is really resonating with me, as it is with a lot of the people on the board here tonight. So yeah, it was a
Oh,
stressful,
and did you say
dynamic event. Let's just say that.
you not only had Mercury in Virgo square the node, you have a south node in Gemini.
Right.
I don't remember if you said that, excuse me. There's my own sparking left brain, right brain. I have having some other thoughts come in. So, yeah, so I should have had Bell's palsy in here as one of the other things that could go haywire. But
Thanks for the memory.
well, and it was, I think it was related to the nerves, but I think for you it was also related to a lot of that electrical stimulus. And didn't you got some acupuncture done with all of that? And didn't you
Yeah.
use a little system that would also kind of give electrical stimulus to your face?
Yeah, we had one of those devices that many people have seen at some of the holistic fairs, that I also used to stimulate, and also electrostim was another tool I used. There was a cold laser, and then there was a that product from Nikan, I can't remember what it was called, but it was actually an electrical charge that I used to stimulate those nerves kind of back into action, so to speak, as I started to self-heal that stress-induced Bell's palsy, which runs in my family, by the way, but it also runs strongly in my natal chart, is what I've learned through astrology.
Yeah, your dad had it, your sister had it, and so that's why it's thought to be hereditary. But boy, your chart really screams it, I guess I should say. And that was a particularly stressful situation, and it kind of probably was part of what resulted in you losing your job within a few months after that. You kind of looked a little different for a while there. But
You mean they didn't want the one-eyed coach in the third base box?
with the
Yeah,
droppy face, I mean,
yeah.
right out of Frankenstein movie.
Still trying to grind our way to the state playoffs. Yes.
Well, their loss was EA's gain because that was the situation that created the doorway where Leroy made the choice to um, come into the world of evolutionary astrology and energetic balancing with me. And I look back on it now and I'm quite grateful for it, honey.
Thank
All
you.
right, moving on here. I hadn't thought about this as I was prepping for class here over the last couple of days, but all had popped in as I was teaching here. I want to look a minute at the thyroid gland because in the endocrine system, again, the thyroid and parathyroid rule this. So again, here's where this throat chakra resides. Here is the thyroid gland right under the larynx. And of course, sound is always going to come out through the mouth, through the breath. This is why, to me, I just feel that the whole lungs and trachea area start to be, and the larynx, this all just starts to become both fourth, fifth chakra, blend the two a little bit either direction for them. But the thyroid produces hormones that influence every organ, tissue, and cell in the body. Think of Mercury here. It controls metabolism, heart rate, body weight, body temperature, energy levels, menstrual strength, and muscle strength, and menstrual regularity. Now, the risk factors include sex or gender, and it affects women more than men. And other risk factors are age, genetics, and radiation exposure, especially if you have any radiation exposure in this area. That radiation will congregate in the thyroid gland. This is why when you go to the dentist, if you have any x-rays on your teeth, they put that big old heavy thing underneath your neck that covers this area up, because dentists are well aware of how sensitive the thyroid is to radiation. Now, two well-known issues with the thyroid is hypothyroidism, which is too little hormone production. This causes the body to function at a lower rate. That creates weight issues, low energy issues. Hypothyroidism can contribute to heart disease because there is the side effect of increasing the LDL or bad cholesterol in the bloodstream. The other imbalance is hyperthyroidism, which is too much hormone production. Here the body functions at a higher rate. It increases all the reactions that occur in the body. It increases the sense of nervousness, decreased menstrual flows, weight loss. These tend to be real thin, wiry people. It can also create irregular heartbeats. Everything is working in overdrive with hyperthyroidism. It can contribute to infertility and miscarriages as well. Now, it can be corrected quite easily with drugs. You can do it alternatively. It won't respond as fast. When you have either one of these thyroid imbalances, because it has such a direct effect on metabolism, it really requires someone to be quite strict with diet, exercise, and rest to balance it out naturally. Probably the majority of people balance it out with drugs. One of my three kitties, one of my Manx tabbies that I helped cross over almost a year ago, he had gotten bit by a spider, and I didn't know it right away. So we didn't have a balancing frequency in the energetic balancing work that I have. This was a kitty who was born with the frequency of feline leukemia, and that wanted to put him to sleep. I put him on my alternative healing program, and he was a nice, fat, happy football player, as I called him. Their daddy must have been, they were strays, but he was a strong, healthy cat until this spider bite. And by the time we figured it out, it had affected his thyroid, and he came down with hyperthyroidism. And I, in addition to the energetic balancing, finally started to work with correcting it with the pills, and gave him the thyroid pills for, I don't know if I did it a year or 2 years, and it helped him function better. but the quality of life wasn't there, and I feel that I did a beautiful thing in allowing him to leave his body and not remain for me, not remain for mama. But he had hyperthyroidism, and I didn't know this, but hyperthyroidism is common in cats. Hypothyroidism is common in dogs. And I didn't know that till I experienced this myself. Now, these imbalances, whether they're hyper or hypo, affect women more than men of almost any age group. Men, they have a tendency to start running into thyroid imbalances after the age of 60. Just a little bit on the parathyroid. The main thing for it is that it regulates calcium in the body, both the blood and the bones. And calcium is the only mineral that has its own gland to regulate it, and that's the parathyroid. There are 4 parathyroids. They exist right in back of the thyroid gland on either side of the larynx and trachea. Now, the main uses of calcium, it allows the nervous system, or the nervous system uses calcium to conduct electrical impulses in the body. The muscles use calcium to contract, which affects our energy levels. And calcium also provides strength in the skeletal system. And calcium will move in and out of our bones, however necessary, to keep our blood calcium regulated at an exact, precise level. And so sometimes when the parathyroid goes out, we get increases of calcium. That can create the heart issues. There's a whole kinds of stuff that start to come in here. And so again, if you look at someone who has a lot of mercurial aspects, a lot of planets in 3rd, 6th house, a lot of planets in Gemini or Virgo, Mercury square the nodes is the example we gave before, then you can start looking for possible issues with the thyroid and the parathyroid. Finally, I've included this slide again, looking at all the brain hormones. We looked at this with the root chakra, with Uranus, co-rulership of the root chakra. We looked at it, and Saturn co-rulership of the root chakra. We looked at it with the sacral chakra with Jupiter and Neptune's co-rulership. There are, 3 main glands in the brain. The hypothalamus is right here. It affects the pituitary, which is this little lobe right down there, if you can see it, which affects the pineal. And it goes in this direction, which I've diagrammed for you. And so Mercury has linkage to not only the hypothalamus, but to all the hormones through its rulership of chemical messages. And the hypothalamus is the main gland that regulates the body's thermostat, hot and cold, along with the thyroid. And it also regulates the hormones, okay? So because Mercury rules those chemical messages that tell us to secrete hormones or do not secrete hormones, no matter which hormones in the endocrine system, again, Mercury has a specific linkage to the hypothalamus. And as I've been studying it, Mercury can have a secondary co-rulership to the whole endocrine system. The endocrine system is generally ruled by Neptune. We'll look at that. And if you remember the slide, I'm going to go back to this because I, again, just want to show this to you specifically. Remember, the chakras not only relate to nerve centers, but they also relate to the endocrine system. And here's the specific glands to the endocrine system. Mercury's going to have secondary rulership to all of these due to, again, its ability to tell the glands to secrete or not secrete hormones through chemical messaging. And I would say electrical could easily be a part of that as well. All right, so that is all my information. Do I have comments or questions from anybody? We do have a volunteer chart that we're going to look at. Let me just take some water and check in with everybody first. Leroy, I don't know if I remembered to tell you who our volunteer is. She said it was okay.
Oh, I got her. Yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. So I'm going to take a big drink. Any questions or comments?
Not so far, but from anybody else on the board. But here's Marlene. I've unmuted our volunteer guest, I should say.
You all just heard the sound of water from my full water bottle.
Yeah, that was
It was plumb full. I ran it over and I hadn't had a drink yet, so the sound of water. Is our volunteer live?
Yes, I am, Kim Marie.
Hi there. Welcome, honey. Let me just briefly give everybody some information on your chart, and then we're going to start out with what was clicking for you through all this, okay? And so we have a data of September 18th, 1950, 10:37 a.m., Sioux City, Iowa. We have a 16-degree Scorpio rising. We don't have any planets in third house or sixth house, but we do have 1, 2, 3, 4 planets in the south node in Virgo. One of those planets is Mercury. Mercury is in a pretty tight conjunction with Saturn and the Sun here between 22 and 25 degrees Virgo. They have a square to Chiron and the Moon at 16 and 23 degrees Sagittarius. We have a south node at 28 Virgo, which is about 6 degrees away from Mercury, close enough to be conjunct the south node. Let me go over environmental conditionings for her. Our volunteer feels that she is moving through that third individuated, first spirituated, Catholic upbringing, left the church, young adult, never looked back, always interested in spirituality, looked at several different things, astrology, yoga, Ouija board from being a young time period, did experimentation with hallucinogens. She loved for how it expanded her mind. Has studied many spiritual paths. Parents, dad had didn't finish high school, multiple health issues, surgeries, drank a lot, used a lot of prescription drugs, was abusive, rageaholic, physically abusive to her as a child. Dad, she remembers him saying to her, "You don't have an opinion or a voice." In other words, I think she was told to shut up. Although her dad was very nice to her brother, his son. Parents divorced. Dad ran through her mom's side of the family on his new wife, created big unresolved issues in the family. Mom, strict Irish Catholic. Trauma when she was 4 years old and lost an older sister affected the parents. Mom went to nursing school. Parents were pretty, I think, cruel to her. Mom got pregnant with this volunteer, forced to marry her father, really huge rift in the family. They moved away. Um, Mom died suddenly in the 1980s, several ulcer surgeries. She's the oldest. The brother's a year younger. Mom had several miscarriages, and she lost a baby when our volunteer was 8 years old. Super strict, middle class conditioning. Our volunteer has been a registered nurse herself for 39 years, planning to retire shortly. Felt she's never ever had a voice. Engaged 3 times, never married, runaway bride, short relationships, never lasting longer than 2 years, lots of male friends. She got pregnant. Father of her child wanted her to have abortion, so she left. Became single parent, raised him alone. Loves nature and animals, more at home with animals than other people. Again, she's been a yoga teacher. She really has felt throughout her life issues with her voice, writing, speaking, feels that she's struggled to express herself a lot. Son married a nurse too. I thought that was interesting. 3 generations of nurses.
Yeah.
Does your son have family? Do you have grandkids?
No, not yet. No, they just
Not
got married.
yet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
hmm
But son and wife are your family, and very
Yes.
grateful for
hmm
them. All right,
Yes.
so thank you for sending this to me and allowing me to run through it briefly. And
Sure.
again,
Mhm.
I just would like to start with turning it over to you and what was clicking, triggering, sparking for you as we went through class.
Um, okay, so to work back, as far as physical ailments, I've been really healthy
Mm-hmm.
my whole life, but if I am going to be sick at all, it will be throat and upper respiratory issues, always. It's that really bad cold. Um, I mean, every other year or even every year that I get. That seems to be a really sensitive part of my body, and so I thought of that as far as physical manifestations. It's more on that whole mental, emotional, and spiritual, just seeming like there is a block there. Whereas I'm very assertive in some ways and very direct, but when it comes to really my expression, um, it's really, really difficult for me to get the words out, even like I'm kind of struggling right now even to express myself. Um, Certainly the sound, the mantras, the chanting, I've done all that. There's just a whole level of frustration too. Um, that um, that came up in just listening to your wonderful presentation. Yeah, I, that just the idea that I have moon square my nodes. It's just more communication issues and really being able to communicate with people on an emotional, my feelings, especially in interpersonal relationships and when it really matters. It's really has been challenging for me my whole life. So a lot of me has just shut down and I just don't go there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That came up. um, let's see. That was really, really pretty strong for me. Just being at a loss for words and actually being at a point where I could have a true expression, and my throat just shuts down and closes off.
Mm-hmm.
The chakra just closes off. I couldn't even get the words out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my arena, in my profession, I'm pretty much fine, but as far as moving into a true expression of who I am, my soul expression, it's very challenging. Never really been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you for being willing to share. Okay. Um,
Sure.
yeah, I feel your energy. And I forgot to mention the Mercury retrograde. A couple of things that I'll say, but you're sparking me, so I'm just want to I'm going to share a
Sure.
personal thing with you.
Hmm.
You know, we both had these Midwestern backgrounds, and I have Sun, Mercury, Neptune between 1 to 2 degrees Scorpio. And I had a father who said, you know, women are dumb and stupid. And so I don't think I had a voice in childhood. I did
Hmm.
with my mother, but anytime my father came around, shoot, I just closed right up. And I didn't have a voice very much in school until probably my senior year. And I actually then was chosen, one of a few people chosen to give the senior graduation speech, and I actually wrote it out and got the courage to stand up on stage and speak it. But boy, I can so relate to having a Mercury shutdown. I don't have Mercury
Yeah.
retrograde, but if I listen to you, you know, this Mercury Saturn is only half a degree apart. It's 33
Hmm.
minutes, okay?
Hmm.
And you know, Saturn always crystallizes whatever it's next to. It, you know, remember, I don't know if you listened
Hmm.
to the root chakra, but you know, it closes down that sense of foundation and that sense of grounding that we need to have in the world. And again, this is why you know, EA preaches observe, correlate. So for
Hmm.
you, where instead of coming through on a physical level, what we're
Right.
seeing here is coming through in literally in regards to your voice and your ability to
Yeah.
speak. Do you
Hmm.
find when you get triggered that your mind shuts down an ability to think?
Yeah. Yeah. I
See,
can. Yeah. I don't. Exactly. Yeah. It's
I would be floating in the clouds and all of a sudden somebody would be yelling at me, but mine was Sun Neptune. Yours is Sun Saturn. Both would be, you know, can Mercury goes somewhere, or my Mercury disappeared. Your Mercury, you know, would just shut down. I'd have the brain freezes. And that
hmm
and then all of a sudden I'd be jerked into the world going, oh God, who's talking to me, who's yelling at me, who's asking me a question. So I'm seeing this, you know, for you, and you're going to have a double Saturn signature here with this happening in the 10th house.
Right. Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you found that with time you can think on your feet outside the work environment?
When I was growing up, I was not like that at all. I mean, I was so rebellious and I had the biggest mouth and I went toe to toe with my dad, and I think that's why I ended up being at the end of his rage and, his acting out. And I found I began to shut down. And I still do have, though, a brain freeze where I can't really think on my feet. I can't really get like a quick answer to come back. I can think of it later, but
Mm-hmm.
it's really, I don't have, I did when I was younger. I think it just kind of got beat out of me. I have that, I definitely have that now, where I just
Mm.
can't think on my feet. I
So
think
your
fast.
your father was physically abusive. Was he
Yeah,
sexually abusive?
I believe so, yeah. I believe it was kind of the spectrum, yeah. Hmm.
And probably so you had the physical abuse,
Hmm.
the what would I say, beatings, okay, where he would hit you.
Yes, yeah. Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
it could show that this signature could be here on a
sure.
sexual level as well, with you
Hmm.
know, all of this connected to the Mars Pluto square and the Mars in Scorpio
Hmm.
first house as a
Yeah.
child.
And he
So,
was a Scorpio
mhm,
also. He was a
mhm,
Scorp. Yeah.
mhm, Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is coming through here then is, you know, whenever planets are conjunct the south node, and you have 3 of them here,
Mm.
Mercury, Saturn, Sun,
Yeah.
we have the relive or we have the
Yes.
fruition syndrome. And because I know this, I'll just share this with listeners. The fruition syndrome for you was flying through nursing school and having no idea how you did it.
Right.
And being a
And no
very good
science background.
and being a very good nurse for 40
Yeah.
years.
Mm-hmm.
But for the rest of it, who am I? You
Yeah.
know, I think that you've broken free, taken charge of your world pretty
Mm.
much. But there's an extreme sensitivity here and a karma and a strong need to just break free and live your truth.
Yes.
And
Yes.
breaking free and living your truth has always got to be done on a conscious day by day level.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, this is I appreciate you sharing this example because rather than it being so much physical, although, you know, you do agree with the respiratory issues when you do have
Right.
something happen,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's more for you. It's more that's literally is that throat chakra.
Right.
The
Yes.
ability to think, the ability to speak, and the
Mm-hmm.
continuation of looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
How are you finding the nodal axis transit? Because you had a nodal opposition here when the node shifted last
Mm-hmm.
summer, and now you've got the north node extremely close if it hasn't just went over this Mercury. Are you finding an ability to work with that?
I'm just obsessed. There's a great intensity to just what I'm, my next step and taking those steps to achieve that. It just seems that the North Node being, right on my sun or right in there, is like an opening, a great opening for me that I haven't really felt. I had inklings, but I haven't really felt it like I felt it now, that I actually could move forward, really
Mhm.
move forward into a truer expression of my soul and who I really am.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a total opening of a door.
Mhm. Mhm. Good for you. I would also say when it comes to the whole healing energy of sound and vibration, it may be with this nodal axis passage that you could try mantras again or meditation again or music again. If listening to you saying that you've done that and you've had frustrations with it, it's
Yeah.
possible for you with your sensitivities, the mutable archetypes here,
Mm-hmm.
the nodal axis, the planets square the nodes in Sag. It's possible for you that the sounds that would be most healing are
Mm-hmm.
nature sounds.
Yeah.
You know, those CDs where there's the
The ocean.
waterfall,
Yeah.
the CDs, yes,
Mm-hmm.
CD of the
Mm-hmm.
oceans,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't you live close to the ocean
I
now?
do. I live a mile from the beach, and yes, I
Oh,
do go there. Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, click,
Yeah.
click, 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 right there.
Yes.
That
Uh-huh.
the ability to listen to the sounds of the ocean would really be able to help calm this energy down and process through here. I would also just say the CDs where you have running water and the sounds of birds and crickets and
Mm-hmm.
frogs and animals. I just think that might be the types of sounds, nature sounds,
Mm-hmm.
over perhaps human sounds that might be most helpful and healing for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. What about? writing also, because I found that I just seem like I'm blocked as far as, sitting down and really writing out, like, for the certification, for the questions, the charts and all. I feel like there's a part of that voice, the nonverbal voice, that's blocked also. It's almost like anxiety or something.
Yeah, yeah. There could be a whole history here of having a leadership voice at some point, or even writing something at some point. If I may just quickly refer to Leroy's chart, remember he had Mercury in Virgo square the nodes in Gemini Sag, and he has that in mutable houses. Leroy has a specific memory of being a scribe back in the days where they had to handwrite the books of the Bible, and getting so fed up with it, he burned down the church. Pluto in Leo, third house, Sun in Leo, third house. You can jump in if there's anything else you want to share, Leroy. So you might have a mixture of lifetimes, memories, complexes that have some shutdown that you are working your way through in, I would just say, whatever way feels most natural and best intuitively. In regards to writing blocks, do you journal?
I have journaled since 1973. I have so many books of journals. I mean, I journal, dream journal, just a writing journal, yes. But when it comes to something that I can actually, take into the world as a real expression and help people make a contribution, oh boy, there's a block there.
There comes a substantial amount of fear there. I think Mercury in Virgo, especially Mercury retrograde Virgo, there's always been some arrested development with communications on some level. For me, square the nodes. And what I heard you say in your report earlier was the almost arrested emotionally. You can't express yourself because there's some kind of freeze up emotionally, and what I've come to discover over the years is expanding my own spiritual growth to others is a block because I'm afraid or concerned with that, essentially getting the tongue ripped out one more time. Mercury, Virgo, square the nodes, or some kind of trauma occurring. And it's a unique combination because there's a lot of gifts with all that strong Virgo. I mean, it's just that, your journaling is very similar to your expertise in nursing. I mean, very good at all the things behind the scenes, but when it comes to sometimes projecting ourselves out there as a healer, spiritual healer, there can still be that arrested development.
I had a past life regression years ago, and I was practicing Reiki at the time, and I went back to like Atlantis, when Atlantis was falling, and with the crystals that were blowing everything up, and I had a healing temple. And it was a temple that helped people make their transition, and it was my temple, and that the columns were coming down, and I just watched everybody, perish, and that was really, really traumatic for me. And after that, I stopped doing Reiki, and I just kind of put that to the side. And you're right, anything where I'm kind of out front and center is
That's a Virgo in the 10th house memory right there.
Yeah.
And if you if you have any interest in connecting with me, obviously, the South Node says this, Saturn says, all of this says this. I mean, to me, if I may, in my world, because I found deep memory processing, the past life regression method by Roger Wolger, I found that through my own traumas and experienced healings through that I then took the trainings and then, assisted with the trainings. I just keep getting the hit that that's a real strong key to being able to unlock this and rest or calm this conscious mind. And I would say that it's not hypnotherapy just bringing up the memory. With this sun moon square here and moon square the nodes, Chiron square the nodes, there has to be the healing work that's done once it's made conscious, once the memories revive. There's more to it than just one lifetime. And if I would be the one to work with you, I'd want to look for what's more recent past life memories that are triggering this.
Oh, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
And then as you go into the work, and when you get into perhaps the Bardos world, then you do almost like a mini session within that. Now take me to the source of that. And if it was that Atlantean time period, what's still broken there? What still didn't get resolved there? That would be the process that we would go through. Now, I do happen to know a few practitioners down in that area. I'd have to go search out some possibilities and names. And one's a massage therapist who is also an EA student.
Oh,
So
okay.
that would be a possibility. The second thing for you is all of the transits of the spiritual T-square right now, as Saturn and Sag goes over this, as Jupiter and Virgo gets, I mean, it went stationary retrograde here, okay? Right on both of these too. So as it finishes up and goes direct and comes back around, as the nodal axis is going through there, it's still there for you to just be asking and questing and making the effort, Virgo.
It's you asked me about the North Node on my sun. It's almost like I'm knocking on the door, you know, that opening the door. I just got that flash. I completely get that.
Yeah. All the transiting planets in Virgo, Sag, and Pisces are providing the timing of opportunity to break through.
Yeah.
And if you if you're recognizing, you've got Chiron opposing Mercury 3 times, 5 times, you might want to look that up via the transits. So here's that opportunity where Chiron is down here to find the emotional, spiritual healing to unblock this chakra. And let's not forget that your Mercury, Venus are pretty close. They're not in a conjunction. Mercury's 12 degrees new phase, but they're still fairly close. And so I'm seeing that there's a link here between 4th chakra and 5th chakra and 6th chakra. And I'm wanting you to be my volunteer next month. Continue part 2.
Yes. Oh my.
But you have some choice to think on it and let me know. You don't have to answer on the spot, okay?
Well, you know me. This is so important to me. I mean, this is the time.
Yeah, there might be some things we can unlock here with these 2 chakras and the whole, intuition thing with that 6th chakra as part of it. So, but it's not what my point was is what I'm getting is it's not all done in the head. It's got to be done in the heart and the emotions as well with this Mercury Venus signature and moon square the nodes.
Yeah.
Won't that solar eclipse be right opposing that Venus next week?
Yes, the solar eclipse, no, Mercury. The solar eclipse is 19 degrees Pisces. And
19.
so, yes, the solar eclipse is 19 degrees Pisces. So it's going to be opposing Mercury, Saturn, and you could bring the sun into it as well. So perhaps you could look at this solar eclipse coming up here March 8th as maybe some emotional breakthroughs that could happen for you that could unlock a few of these doors. Not only that, the lunar eclipse is going to be 3 degrees Aries Libra, and it's still going to be close enough when we have that lunar eclipse that it is going to be triggering your nodes as well. So this eclipse season, the eclipse season in 6 months, you've got a lot of parts of yourself that could be unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I really get that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Take a breath. and don't forget that with this congregation of Virgo right here, it's just making the effort, and not judging it. You know, the Pisces polarity, it's all about the intention, not the results. Okay?
Yeah.
And as you've probably heard me say, it's not how many times you fall off the bicycle, it's that you get up and try one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's exactly. Not giving up.
Do you have any other questions, comments for me?
Just, I'm just wondering about Uranus, the square that the transiting the square my natal planets in Virgo. Could that add tension and maybe some anxiety, stress, and that kind of thing? What will make this easy, a little bit easier?
Uranus, the Uranus square, you talking natal Uranus?
No, the transit.
Transiting Uranus is, operating about what, 20, 21 degrees Aries? It's not so much a square, it's an inconjunct.
Okay.
It's an inconjunct, and I don't think it's going to go. No, it's in your 6th house now for the next 7 years, and so this is you opening up to trying, opening up to making another effort and another effort and another effort. Part of it's going to re-imprint, emphasize the Virgo stuff because here we are 6th house.
But with the effort will give me an opportunity to really heal on a deep level.
Yes, also. Exactly. That's what the opportunities are with the 6th house. So what Uranus could bring for you is an opening of the doors in the willingness to try, in potential success, and the willingness to try new things, different things. Okay? You could even just, go ahead.
New group, new modality, new group. Yeah, I got that. I totally got that.
Yes, there could be something new that's coming along. And don't forget that it's been making some pretty nice trines here to Moon, Sag, and Pluto. So this is courage. Transiting Uranus is affecting courage right here. And fire signs are courage. Okay? And And yes, having some success. Pay attention to the nervous system structure as it goes here into the 6th house. Do you sense more electrical nervous system stuff going on? Or do you have a calming of it going on? It could go either way.
Hydration will be important.
Yes,
Hydration, yeah.
hydration will be important. You know, as we have studied in the previous classes, the Uranus Urbis Foti root.
Yes.
You know, it calms the brain, it calms the adrenal functions. You know, with Uranus going into the 6th house and making these aspects, that might be something that would be helpful for you, because if you can calm down the brain and the adrenals, it might help it be a little easier to speak up.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So it's a combination of effort,
Yeah.
however you perceive it, best to be. And for me, I would say digging down into the past lives and, you know, working through making those old traumas conscious to change that pattern. You know, 5th chakra is changing the vibration, changing the pattern.
Yeah.
And when you make it conscious, it's not about, you know, it takes, there can be a huge relief and calming mechanism that goes on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me check in with Leroy and see if there's anybody else out there who may have any questions, comments, anything.
Nope, we're pretty clear on the board. So I do appreciate the chart, though. It's been kind of healing for me to look at this. It seems like there's never a problem with the mental body here with this volunteer. It's kind of like very similar to me. It's more getting in touch with that emotional body that seems to clear the path.
Yeah, there's the Venus and the Moon are showing us the emotional triggers that are right in here. Yeah. There's as much emotional wounding as there is mental wounding.
Yes, absolutely.
And reiterated with the Scorpio rising and the mini generation of Uranus in Cancer and Jupiter 2936 retrograde in the beginning of the 4th.
Yes. Yep.
Well, thank you very, very, very much for being willing to be our volunteer. I hope this has been a few steps helpful.
Yeah, really good. I'll be in touch with you.
Sure.
I'll send you an email and you can get that.
You bet. And for everybody else here, we'll take a few weeks off, and then we're going to come back the 21st of March. I still got third eye. I got to make this the medulla ajna. I was in a hurry, so I don't have the right word. This is the ajna chakra. And then April 7th, we'll do the crown chakra. And then here's some of our public webinars. So thank you to everyone who showed up on class live and attends after the fact with the recording. Appreciate you very much doing this series. I appreciate you volunteer one more time. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good night.